Right, so welcome to my technology assignment. My name's Daniel Jaramillo, and let's get to answering some of these questions. So the first is why have you chosen to become a teacher, or perhaps it has chosen you? And in what ways might you understand teaching as a calling? To what extent might you see teaching as part of your journey, and etc. I feel like teaching is something that definitely chose me. I'll be honest in saying that it wasn't my first choice in career. It's really funny because I thought that I had this feeling inside me from, I don't know, about halfway through high school that I probably was going to be a teacher at some point. Didn't really want to do it. A lot of back then it had to do a lot with the money, and now it still has a lot to do with the money. But as I go forth in my journey, I really get to see, or really have seen, that teachers, it takes a couple of years, but your salary takes off, and that really is the least of it. Um, it's definitely my calling to be a youth worker, to be around students. Teaching connects me with students. I just seem to have good luck with establishing rapport with high schoolers for whatever reason. We just click. Maybe it's because I'm youthful at heart. I'm playful, and I can be serious too. Life is really all about balance, and so I have those things really balanced. And Again, I just have good luck establishing rapport with youth. We all get together and think and plan. We listen to each other. And even when I don't want to be a youth worker anymore, I just kind of keep going because it's not that I don't know anything else, but it's just something I really enjoy doing, so I press forward. Second question, have there been any significant cultural beliefs or experiences which have influenced your desire to become a teacher? Yes. In my culture, education is, and I'm Mexican, or rather, I'm Hispanic. Dad from Mexico, mom from Guatemala. Education is something that was inculcated into me from a young age. I was convinced that it was the only way to succeed in life in order to get somewhere, do well for yourself, establish yourself in the world, and all that good stuff. So now that I've gone through this, I want other minority kids to see someone who is a minority in charge of the classroom, teaching them. It's just something that inspires me to keep going forward. Um, Especially regarding social injustice, I want to be a teacher to show students that they too can do something in a world that opposes them. When I look at myself and my own educational experience, I'm a bit of a statistic. Granted, yeah, I had a good family. My parents guided me through a lot of difficult situations, but I beat the odds as a Hispanic man who grew up in a largely Hispanic neighborhood, going to largely Hispanic schools. I made it out, right? Went to college, got my BA, and now I'm in grad school to be a teacher. So in the same way that I beat the odds, it fuels me forward to influence students, not just minority students, but all students because everybody has some kind of odds stacked against them, and I want them to be able to beat those odds and do the same. Regarding philosophers and how they most align with my philosophy as a teacher, um, surprisingly, I actually liked Jefferson the most. It's not just because I'm a historian, but I really liked the idea that he had for Virginia, where he advocated for public schools, or at least public elementary schools. You have to keep in mind that this was a time or rather, he lived in a time when school was really only for people in his social status. Um, and so, if you wanted to go to school, you had to pay for it. And who was going to pay for it? Well, the rich people were. All the plantation owners were. People who did well for themselves were going to go to school and send their kids off to school. So Jefferson wanted primary school to help kids learn to read and write, become literate, obviously, first of all. He wanted these schools to teach history and geography so that they could learn to judge the future, as he so eloquently put it. And it's because Jefferson wanted access to elementary education that I feel now, I feel it heavier in my heart. I felt that it was my duty before, but now it's just dead set in that I want, obviously, what's best for my students, and I'm going to do my best to pour myself out as best as I can for them. I'm going to be real and admit that I probably won't be able to reach every single student, but I'm going to work like I can. And even if they walk away with one or two things, snippets of whatever it is that they picked up in my class, then that will be more than satisfying to me. Let's see. What do I believe regarding topics like instructional practices, student engagement, and classroom management? I really like this question because before we can even look at the other two things, we have to look at a classroom management. We need to show our students how the classroom is going to operate throughout the year. We have to lay down expectations, rules, consequences, good and bad consequences, of course. We have to repeat them a few times and have reminders throughout the year in order for us to really be able to manage our classroom. If classroom management isn't the first thing that you lay down, then your students aren't going to respect you. You're going to lose them, and you're not going to be able to teach them anything. So then that makes instructional practices and student engagement go out the window. So in order to avoid that, first learn to manage your classroom and set those expectations down first. I've done, you don't get respect much as a substitute teacher, but I've found that when I've established those kind of things, it's just a couple things. It's like, hey, let's respect each other today, and something easy as like, and let's have a good time. Really just gets students kind of focused. It's worked for me as a sub, so I really hope it works for me in my career as a teacher. Next thing I want to talk about is student engagement. And it's interesting because this is actually also tied with instructional practices. Student engagement is important because if your lessons aren't interesting or at least have some sort of hook in them or something that is going to capture your students' attention, they're going to get bored and they're not going to learn anything. We have to be real, though, and say that you can't always make every lesson interesting. There's going to be a few one-offs where you may even think that something's interesting, and it's just not going to be. So it's going to be hit or miss with student engagement and interesting lessons. But you have to try your best most of the time. You always have to try your best. Not most of the time, but all the time you have to try your best to engage your students, especially me with history. History is just one of those subjects that students just don't seem to enjoy. And you can't blame them because it is sort of a dry subject. So I'm thinking that I could use, your typical videos to try to get students engaged. There's some fun videos by Crash Course that I like using for myself, even just to freshen up on things, to refresh myself on things. And there's a lot of history memes actually going around. They're hilarious. So if you're on Instagram, get on that. You'll have a good time reading those history memes. They even have memes for other subjects. Look it up. You will probably find it. How I believe I'm progressing as an educator. I feel like I'm progressing decently. Obviously, like everyone else, I'm learning pedagogy, strategies, and a lot of good philosophy. But I will admit that I am rather skeptical about a few things, especially because everything now is just still theory. And there really hasn't been a lot of application for me because I'm not a teacher yet. But at least I know I have my heart's in the right place, and I'm ready to get going and apply these things. And of course, it's going to be a challenge for me as a freshman teacher, but it's something I'm looking forward to because I'm ready for it. And I'm ready for it. And so, last thing, my current educational philosophy was impacted by my K through 12 experience because it was actually really great. I had good, compassionate teachers who knew how to treat their students well. They knew how to manage their classroom. They knew how to manage good, bad behavior. And it wasn't actually until I didn't realize this until I started writing this little script that I have here for this video, that I actually turned out the same way. And it was because I was influenced not only by my parents, but mostly by my teachers who, again, were really good, compassionate people. And so I view kids in the same way, as in a good, compassionate way. And currently my experience at APU has been mostly positive. Met some great people. Professors are excellent. Busy work, can't say I'm a fan of it. But hey, you got to put your head down. You got to move forward. There's really no use in complaining about doing your work because you have to get it done anyway. But hey, we have to move forward, and that's what counts. So thanks for watching this video. Have a good one.